They rise from the desert like mountains carved by human hands, their edges sharpened against the horizon, their shadows stretching across the sands, the pyramids of Egypt. For thousands of years they have stood in silence, unmoved by the passing of empires, unbroken by time, watching the world change while they remain. They are not merely monuments, they are guardians, sentinels of a forgotten age, and even now in our modern world of steel and glass, their presence demands our attention. Why do they hold us so tightly? Why, when we look upon them, do we feel not just awe, but something else, something deeper, almost unsettling? It is because they whisper of secrets, because they seem to know more than they should, and because in their silence they remind us that history is larger than the story we've been told. For centuries, the pyramids have been explained as tombs, great burial sites built to honor pharaohs filled with treasures to accompany kings into the afterlife. But when you stand before the Great Pyramid of Giza, it is hard to believe that explanation is enough. Its stones weigh tons, cut with such precision that they lock together without mortar. Its base stretches wider than 13 acres, aligned with uncanny accuracy to the cardinal points of the earth. To say it was built for one man's body feels almost laughably insufficient. It feels instead like something else, something older, something meant to endure. Even the ancients were captivated. When Herodotus, the Greek historian, visited Egypt over 2,000 years ago, he wrote of the pyramids with wonder, but also with confusion. The Egyptians he met could not agree on who built them or how. Some said they were raised by giants, others whispered of knowledge given by the gods. Even then, the pyramids were already old, so old that those who lived among them no longer remembered their own story. That is perhaps their greatest power. They are timeless. No matter how much we learn, they remain ahead of us, out of reach, always holding something back. We scan their walls, we crawl through their passageways, we map their hidden voids, and still, the feeling lingers that we are only scratching the surface. That beneath the limestone and granite, something waits. They captivate us because they refuse to be solved. Every discovery leads to more questions. When archaeologists found hidden shafts leading out from the king's chamber, the shafts ended in doors, sealed with copper fittings blocking our way. When scientists used cosmic rays to scan the Great Pyramid, they found a vast empty space, larger than any chamber we had seen, yet unreachable. Always the pyramids seemed to hold us at the threshold, showing just enough to ignite our curiosity, then withdrawing into silence. And then there is their endurance. Civilizations crumble, cities turn to dust, empires vanish into myth, but the pyramids remain. They are older than Rome, older than Greece, older even than most of recorded history. They were already ancient when Cleopatra ruled, when Alexander marched across the desert, when the first scrolls of philosophy were written. They are older than memory itself. That endurance makes us wonder, were they built not just to honor the dead but to speak to the future, to us? Stand before them and you feel it, the weight of time, the sense of something vast and deliberate. They are not simply piles of stone, they are messages in stone, messages we have not yet learned to read. Perhaps that is why they never let us go, because deep down we sense that they are not just relics of the past, they are reminders. Reminders that history may be older than we think, that civilizations may rise and fall, but something survives, something meant to endure the flood of time. The desert wind carries whispers, and when it moves across the pyramids, it seems to ask the question that has haunted humanity for centuries: who truly built them? These colossal monuments rise from the Giza plateau as if they were planted there, immovable, eternal. Yet the story of their builders is as clouded as the sands that shift endlessly at their base. We are told they were built by the ancient Egyptians, stone by stone, hauled by the sweat of thousands of workers over decades. But even as this explanation is repeated, it never quite satisfies. It never fully explains the scale, the precision, the mystery. Consider the stones themselves. Some weigh more than 50 tons, quarried from miles away and somehow transported across desert terrain. Others were cut so precisely that not even a sheet of paper can slide between them. How was such accuracy achieved with copper tools and primitive techniques? Egyptologists say it was possible, that sheer manpower and ingenuity were enough. But doubt lingers. The engineering is so advanced that even today, with cranes, lasers, and modern machines, we would struggle to replicate it with the same perfection. Could a Bronze Age civilization have truly mastered such feats? Or was there another force at work, knowledge inherited from a source long since forgotten? Some point to the workers' village discovered near Giza, where labourers' bones and tools were unearthed. They say this is proof the pyramids were built by Egyptians, not slaves but organised workers, craftsmen and farmers conscripted during the Nile's flood season. But this does not erase the deeper questions. How did they align the Great Pyramid so perfectly with the cardinal directions, deviating by less than a fraction of a degree? How did they level its massive base on uneven bedrock with precision that rivals modern survey equipment? These are not questions of labour, they are questions of knowledge that should not have existed at the time. Legends suggest other answers. Some speak of the pyramids being built with the help of forgotten technologies, perhaps machines that could lift stone as if it weighed nothing at all. Others whisper that sound itself, resonance, vibration, was harnessed to move the blocks, a technology now lost. There are stories in Arab traditions of a pharaoh who used magic papyri to command the stones to rise into place. Myths perhaps, but myths that echo an unsettling possibility, that the pyramids were not the product of brute force alone, but of science beyond our grasp. Then there are those who look to the stars. The layout of the three great pyramids mirrors the alignment of Orion's belt with uncanny accuracy. Could this have been coincidence, or evidence of builders who understood the heavens with precision rivaling modern astronomers? If so, who taught them? The Egyptians of the Old Kingdom, or a civilization far older, long buried beneath the sands of time? Some believe the pyramids may predate Egypt itself, that the pharaohs did not build them but inherited them, claiming them as their own, repurposing monuments that were already ancient. Geological studies of the Sphinx suggest it may bear erosion from heavy rains that last fell on Egypt thousands of years before the pharaohs. If the Sphinx is older than Egypt, could the pyramids be as well? If so, they may be the last remnants of a forgotten civilization, erased from memory yet leaving behind these impossible structures as proof. The origins of the pyramids are not a single story. They are a puzzle, each piece leading deeper into uncertainty. Perhaps the Egyptians built them, perhaps they restored them, perhaps they were guided by knowledge passed down from a lost age, one we no longer acknowledge. Whatever the truth, the pyramids refuse to surrender their mystery. And in their silence they ask us to consider the possibility that our history is far older, far stranger, and far less complete than we believe. Above the desert sky the stars burn as they have for thousands of years, unchanging, eternal, watching silently over the earth. And when you stand before the pyramids, you cannot help but look upward. The angle of their sides, the geometry of their forms, the sheer precision of their placement, all seem to point toward the heavens. It is as though these monuments were not only built for the earth, but as mirrors of the sky, a cosmic reflection carved into stone. The three pyramids of Giza are not arranged randomly. Their layout is strikingly similar to the three stars of Orion's belt, tilted just slightly off-center, exactly as they appear in the night sky. To the ancient Egyptians, Orion was Osiris, the god of death, resurrection, and eternal life. Was this alignment a coincidence, or was it deliberate, a statement written in stone that connected the pharaohs with the divine order of the cosmos? The Great Pyramid itself hides further celestial secrets. Its shafts, narrow and mysterious, do not lead to the outside world at random. Some point directly to key stars, Orion, Sirius, and others that mark significant events in Egypt's calendar. Imagine standing in the king's chamber thousands of years ago, a torch in hand. knowing that the shaft above you opened not to the desert sky but to Orion, the celestial destination of the soul? Was the pyramid a tomb, or was it a machine designed to guide the spirit into the stars? Even the very shape of the pyramids may hold cosmic meaning. 4 triangular sides rising to a single point, stone that mirrors the rays of the sun. The Egyptians worshipped Ra, the sun god, and the pyramids could be seen as frozen beams of sunlight, solidified light connecting the earth to the heavens. And yet, the symbolism seems to run deeper still. Their perfect geometry reflects mathematical constants, P, the golden ratio, numbers tied not just to art and architecture, but to the very structure of the universe. Did the builders know these truths, or were they preserving knowledge passed down from a time when humanity walked closer to the stars? Around the world, other monuments echo this same cosmic obsession. The pyramids of Teotihuacan in Mexico align with the heavens. The stones of Stonehenge mark the solstices. Ancient sites across continents seem to whisper the same truth, that the sky was not merely observed but integrated into the lives, beliefs, and monuments of early civilizations. And yet, among them all, the pyramids of Egypt stand as the greatest expression of this cosmic connection. Why? Why such precision, such dedication to aligning stone with stars? If the pyramids were truly just tombs, why spend decades building them to match constellations that few would ever see with the naked eye? Unless they were more than tombs. Unless they were bridges between earth and sky, humanity and eternity, mortals and gods. We search for meaning, but perhaps the builders already left it. When the sun rises on the solstice, when Orion shines above the desert, the pyramids still speak. They are reminders that the ancients did not separate heaven from earth. To them, the two were bound together. The sky was not a distant mystery. It was a map, a calendar, a prophecy, and perhaps even a destination. The pyramids stand not only as monuments to the dead, but as cosmic instruments, locked into harmony with the universe itself. Their silence is deceptive, for in their stones lies a song, one that hums with the rhythm of stars, a melody of eternity carved into the sands. Beneath the weight of millions of stones, behind the walls that have stood for thousands of years, there are places inside the pyramids that remain untouched, rooms that lie in silence, sealed since the day they were built. To the outside world, the pyramids appear as mountains of stone, grand, imposing, but empty of life. Yet within them, the whispers grow louder. There are chambers hidden away, chambers we are not meant to see. For generations, explorers believed they had mapped the Great Pyramid, the descending passage, the subterranean chamber carved into bedrock, the Queen's chamber, the Grand Gallery, the King's chamber with its granite sarcophagus. These were thought to be the heart of the monument, but the deeper we probed, the more we realized how little we knew. Narrow shafts lead out of the chambers, climbing upward at impossible angles, ending abruptly at sealed doors. Some of these doors contain copper fittings, carefully worked, their purpose unknown. Behind them, emptiness, or something else, something waiting. In 2017, the mystery deepened. Using cosmic ray imaging, scientists peered into the Great Pyramid and found what should not exist, a vast hidden void as large as a passenger jet resting above the Grand Gallery. It had never been mapped, never been entered. What lies within? The official explanation is cautious. Some say it is merely a structural cavity, yet others believe it could be a hidden chamber, undisturbed for over 4,000 years. If so, why has it not been explored? Why does it remain sealed, left in silence, as if guarded from prying eyes? There are whispers, too, of other hidden rooms beneath the sand. The ancient historian Herodotus spoke of underground chambers, labyrinths beneath the plateau filled with secrets. Later travellers repeated the same stories, vast halls carved into the bedrock, leading to chambers no one was allowed to enter. Could these be the Hall of Records, the mythical library said to preserve the knowledge of a lost civilization? If so, then the pyramids are not just monuments, but vaults, vaults holding truths carefully hidden away. Why such secrecy? Perhaps these chambers were tombs, never meant to be disturbed. Or perhaps they were something more, repositories of knowledge, machines of stone designed to preserve wisdom through the collapse of ages. The shafts, the sealed doors, the voids, all suggest design, purpose. The pyramids do not merely conceal the dead, they conceal intention. Even in recent times there have been rumors of discoveries quietly suppressed. Explorers claiming to have broken into hidden passages only to be silenced. Artifacts said to be found and then quietly removed. Documents and photographs that vanish. Why, if these chambers are empty, are they so carefully guarded? Why is entry forbidden? It suggests that what rests inside is not nothing, but everything. To stand within the Great Pyramid is to feel the weight of silence pressing in. The air is heavy, the stones radiate a stillness that feels alive. You cannot help but imagine what waits behind those sealed doors, scrolls written in a language no one remembers, artifacts that reveal a technology we cannot explain, or perhaps simply the proof that the history we cling to is not the whole story. The hidden chambers remind us that even after centuries of exploration, the pyramids are not finished speaking. They are not just relics of the past, but puzzles designed to outlast time. And as long as those doors remain closed, their secrets remain intact, silent, patient, waiting for the moment when we are ready or daring enough to listen. The pyramids keep their heart concealed, and in that concealment lies their power, because the greatest mystery is not in what we have seen, but in what we have not. It crouches on the edge of the desert like a sentinel from another age, its massive body carved from the bedrock, its gaze fixed eternally eastward, watching the sun rise over the sands. The great Sphinx of Giza, older than the pyramids, older than the dynasties that claimed it, older perhaps than Egypt itself. It is the riddle of stone that refuses to be solved, its face worn by time, its purpose swallowed by silence. And like the pyramids it guards, the Sphinx holds secrets buried deep within its frame. Egyptologists tell us it was built during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre around 2500 BCE. They point to the nearby pyramid and temple, suggesting the Sphinx was a monument to his kingship. Yet the evidence is thin. There are no inscriptions naming Khafre as its builder, no records of its construction, no mention of the enormous effort it would have taken to carve it. For a civilization that recorded every detail of their lives in hieroglyphs, the absence of such a record is telling. It is as though the Sphinx was already there when Khafre ruled, claimed by him but not created by him. Geologists studying its weathering patterns have suggested something even more extraordinary. The Sphinx shows signs not just of wind erosion but of heavy rainfall. Deep vertical grooves cut into its body point to centuries of pounding water, rains that last fell on Egypt thousands of years before Khafre, in an age when the Sahara was lush with rivers and grasslands. If this is true, the Sphinx could be not 4,500 years old but more than 10,000, an artifact from a time long before the dynasties of Egypt, built by a civilization we do not remember. And then there are the whispers of chambers beneath it. For centuries, local legends have spoken of tunnels hidden under the Sphinx, chambers that lead to great halls of knowledge. Some call it the Hall of Records, said to hold scrolls and tablets from Atlantis, a library preserving the wisdom of a forgotten age. In the 1990s, seismic scans detected anomalies beneath the pores of the Sphinx, rectangular voids that looked suspiciously like rooms. The results caused a sensation, but then came silence. No excavation was allowed, no further reports were released. The voids remained sealed, their secrets locked away beneath stone. Why such secrecy? If the voids beneath the Sphinx are empty, why not explore them fully and settle the question? Unless, of course, what lies beneath does not fit the story we are told, unless those chambers hold something that would change history as we know it, something too dangerous for the official narrative to allow. Even the face of the Sphinx carries its mystery. Its head is small compared to its body, leading some to believe it was recarved from an older statue, its original visage long erased. Was it once the face of a lion, guardian of the horizon, before it was reshaped into the likeness of a pharaoh? If so, its true origins stretch back even further into a time when Egypt itself was only a dream. To stand before the Sphinx is to feel its weight, not just of stone but of silence. Its eyes, eroded yet still piercing, seem to watch you as if holding a knowledge you cannot grasp. It is the riddle that refuses to answer, the riddle older than Egypt itself. Beneath the golden sands of Egypt, there are whispers of a library so vast, so extraordinary, that it could rewrite everything we know about the past. It is called the Hall of Records, a hidden archive said to be buried beneath the Giza plateau, a vault of ancient knowledge preserved from an age before memory, an age when civilizations may have risen and fallen long before the pharaohs. To some it is legend, to others it is the single greatest cover-up in history. The idea of the Hall of Records was popularized in modern times through the readings of Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, who claimed that beneath the Sphinx lay a hidden chamber filled with scrolls from Atlantis. He spoke of it as a library, a record of humanity's true origins, guarded until the time was right for it to be revealed. Scholars dismiss this as fantasy. Yet Cayce was not the first to speak of such a place. Ancient traditions, both Egyptian and Greek, hint at hidden repositories of knowledge buried deep under temples and monuments, designed to survive floods, wars, and the passage of time. In the 1990s, seismic surveys around the Sphinx revealed anomalies, rectangular voids beneath the pores, shapes that did not belong to nature. The findings were quietly published, then buried under silence. Official permission to excavate was denied. No further investigation was allowed. Why? If the voids are meaningless, why not dig and prove it? Why keep the possibility of a hidden chamber sealed away? The refusal itself is suspicious, as if confirming that what lies beneath is too important, too dangerous to disturb. Imagine what such a hall might contain. Scrolls older than the pyramids, recording technologies and sciences lost to time, maps of continents as they were before the ice melted and seas rose, histories of civilizations erased from memory, their only traces left in myths of floods and gods, instructions perhaps, for machines we no longer understand, machines that harnessed energy directly from the earth or the stars. If such records exist, they would destroy the neat timeline of history. They would prove that humanity is far older, far more advanced, and far more complex than we are told. The very possibility explains the silence. If the Hall of Records exists, its discovery would shatter the foundations of archaeology, religion, and power. Entire worldviews would collapse. And so, it is safer to dismiss it as myth, to forbid exploration, to seal the past away beneath stone and sand. Better to let the Sphinx guard its secrets forever than to risk the truth rising into the light. But the whispers persist. Explorers speak of hidden tunnels. Legends say the priests of Egypt knew of a library buried in secret, accessible only to the initiated. Even Plato hinted at civilizations that preserved their knowledge for a future age. Could all these fragments point to the same truth, that somewhere beneath the desert lies a vault designed not for the dead, but for the future? To stand on the plateau at night, with the pyramids looming against the stars and the Sphinx watching in silence, is to feel the weight of something unsaid. The desert hums with mystery. The air feels charged, as though beneath your feet lies more than sand, more than stone. Perhaps beneath you, sealed away, lies the memory of an age we have forgotten. Across cultures and continents the story repeats. A mighty civilization rose in splendor, reached heights of knowledge beyond imagination, and then, in a single cataclysm, fell into ruin. In the West, the name given to this lost world is Atlantis. Plato wrote of it as a great island nation, ruled by powerful kings, wealthy in resources, advanced in art and science, until pride brought its downfall, and the gods drowned it beneath the sea. To historians, it is myth, but to others, it is memory, a memory that stretches its shadow all the way to Egypt, to the pyramids, and to the sands of Giza. The Egyptians themselves spoke of a time before dynasties, a time of the Zep Tepi, the first time, when gods or godlike beings walked among humanity and taught them the arts of civilization. They did not describe this era as legend, but as history, recorded in their temples, whispered through their priests. Could these gods have been survivors of a great cataclysm, wanderers from a sunken world who carried fragments of their knowledge to the Nile? If so, the pyramids may not be purely Egyptian, but the legacy of something far older. Plato placed Atlantis beyond the Pillars of Hercules, where the Atlantic meets the Mediterranean. Yet others have connected its story with the flood myths found across the globe. Cultures separated by oceans speak of great deluges, of lands swallowed by water, of survivors who fled to new homes. If Atlantis was real, it may not have been a single city, but one of many civilizations erased by rising seas at the end of the last ice age. Survivors would have sought refuge where they could, and the fertile Nile Valley, rich with resources, would have been a natural sanctuary. Consider the sudden rise of Egyptian civilization. From seemingly primitive beginnings, it leapt into grandeur. Massive stone monuments, advanced mathematics, sophisticated astronomy. How does such knowledge appear so quickly, fully formed? Mainstream history explains it as a slow accumulation of skill. But what if it was inherited? What if a remnant of Atlantis carried blueprints, calculations, and memories of their lost world, preserving them in stone so they would endure where their own cities had not? The alignment of the pyramids with Orion, the precision of their construction, the mysteries of their hidden chambers, all of these echo the kind of knowledge Atlantis was said to possess. Technologies of energy, mastery of the stars, understanding of cycles of time. Egypt's monuments may be more than expressions of power. They may be relics of survival, Atlantis reborn in stone. Whispers persist that beneath the Sphinx lies the Hall of Records, a library containing not just Egypt's secrets, but the story of Atlantis itself. Edgar Cayce, the American mystic, claimed that when the time was right, this hidden chamber would be uncovered, revealing the lost history of the world. While dismissed as fantasy, the very persistence of the legend suggests that humanity still senses a missing chapter, a silence where a great civilization should be. Why bury this connection? Perhaps because it threatens the story of history itself. To admit Atlantis, or any similar lost civilization, would force us to accept that humanity's past is not a steady march of progress, but a cycle of rise, destruction, and rebirth. It would mean that we are not the pinnacle, but only the latest inheritors of knowledge far older than our records admit. Beneath the golden sands of Giza, beneath the feet of tourists who marvel at the pyramids above, there are whispers of another world, a hidden world, a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers stretching for miles beneath the plateau. For centuries, travellers and historians alike have spoken of these subterranean passages, a vast underground network said to rival the pyramids themselves in scale and mystery. And yet, official accounts remain curiously silent. It is as if this underground realm has been deliberately forgotten, sealed away beneath stone and sand. The Greek historian Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BCE, described a labyrinth in Egypt so vast that it dwarfed even the pyramids. He wrote of 12 great courts, thousands of chambers and corridors, so complex that visitors lost themselves within them. Some of these chambers, he claimed, were above ground, but others were hidden below, cut into the earth, filled with hieroglyphs and statues. To Herodotus, it was one of the wonders of the world. Yet today, no such labyrinth is shown to us. Archaeologists dismiss his accounts as exaggeration, and still the whispers remain. In the early 20th century, a British explorer named William Flinders Petrie claimed to have seen evidence of such tunnels beneath Giza. Later reports from local workers spoke of stairways vanishing into the earth, leading to sealed doors and chambers filled with stagnant water. There are even tales of explorers stumbling into vast underground holes, only to be forced back, their discoveries erased from official record. Each story follows the same pattern: discovery, then silence. Modern technology has only deepened the mystery. Seismic surveys have revealed anomalies beneath the Sphinx and the pyramids, hollows, voids, and tunnels cutting through the bedrock. Rectangular shapes, too precise to be natural, lie hidden beneath the plateau, yet excavation is forbidden. Why? Why leave these spaces unexplored unless what lies within them is something history is not ready to face? What purpose would such a labyrinth serve? Was it a network of tombs designed to bury rulers whose names have been erased? Was it a refuge, a sanctuary built to survive floods and wars? Or was it something greater, an archive of knowledge, a library sealed away in stone, built to outlast the ages? If the pyramids are monuments to eternity, then the labyrinth beneath may be the true heart of Giza, the vault where the ancients placed what they could not risk losing. Some even suggest the labyrinth was not merely storage, but a machine, a network of chambers designed to channel water, sound, or energy through the bedrock, creating resonance that fed into the pyramids above, a system not of death but of power. If so, the tunnels beneath may still hum with secrets waiting to be uncovered. And yet, when questions are raised, the answers are always the same. There is nothing there. No labyrinth, no chambers, no secrets, only bedrock and sand. But silence can be louder than denial. Why forbid excavation if there is truly nothing to find? Why does the desert guard its depths so carefully? Deep inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, past the narrow passages and echoing chambers we already know, lies something that should not exist. A space that was never recorded in ancient texts, never marked by inscriptions, never opened by human hands for thousands of years. In 2017, scientists using cosmic ray muon imaging announced a discovery that shook archaeology to its core, a massive hidden void stretching above the Grand Gallery as large as a passenger jet, a secret sealed in stone. The announcement should have changed everything, but almost immediately it was downplayed. Authorities dismissed the void as a structural anomaly, a hollow space left behind by builders. Others suggested it was meaningless, a byproduct of construction. Yet the scans were clear. The void was real, and what makes it most unsettling is not its size, but the silence that followed. Years have passed, and still, no exploration has been allowed, no robots sent, no holes drilled, no cameras lowered. The void remains closed. Why? The Great Pyramid is not a simple structure. Its corridors climb and fall, its chambers interlock with precision, its shafts point toward the stars. Every stone is deliberate, every line intentional. To suggest that builders left behind a void the size of an airplane by accident strains belief. The pyramid was not built carelessly, it was built with purpose, which means this space too must have purpose. What could lie inside? Some suggest it is another chamber, a burial room untouched by thieves and time, filled with treasures and texts that would transform our understanding of Egypt. Others believe it may be a hidden machine, a chamber designed for function rather than ritual, part of a system we no longer understand. And some whisper it could be something far more extraordinary, a vault not of Egypt alone, but of humanity itself, containing records of a forgotten age. The idea of hidden voids within the pyramid is not new. Legends have long spoken of secret chambers and concealed passages. Ancient Arab historians wrote of hidden rooms that could only be opened by those with forbidden knowledge. Modern explorers who attempted to probe too deeply often found their work halted, their reports suppressed. The Great Pyramid has always held more than it reveals, and the discovery of the void only confirms what many have suspected, that the monument is not finished speaking. Yet the refusal to explore it is perhaps the greatest mystery of all. In an age where satellites map distant planets, where robots crawl into the deepest caves, why has no one been permitted to enter this chamber? Why is it left in silence, sealed and ignored? The answer may be simple, because those in power already suspect what lies inside and they fear it. Fear that the void contains truths too disruptive, too dangerous for the world to know. Stand before the Great Pyramid at night with the desert stretching into darkness and the stars burning overhead, and you cannot help but feel the presence of that void, a space hidden within, as silent as the grave, as patient as eternity. It has waited for thousands of years. It waits still, not because it cannot be opened, but because it is not allowed to be opened. Beneath the weight of the pyramids, far below the scorching desert sun, the air grows damp. There are places beneath Giza where stone meets water, where dark passages sink into the earth and end in silence. Explorers who have gone deep into these subterranean levels often return with the same story: flooded chambers, stagnant pools, and black water that seems to guard whatever lies beyond. The pyramids may appear dry and lifeless above, but below they breathe with hidden rivers, and in those waters secrets may still be preserved. In the 19th century, early adventurers who ventured beneath the plateau reported finding chambers half filled with water. They described long corridors that ended in pools, stairways vanishing into submerged halls, and rooms that could not be reached because the Nile's floodwaters had risen and swallowed them. Local legends echoed these accounts, speaking of underground lakes, of boats kept ready for journeys into the underworld. Even today, researchers who map the subsurface of Giza find anomalies that suggest vast cavities filled with liquid, sealed away for millennia. Why would the ancients build chambers that water would one day claim? Perhaps it was not an accident. The Egyptians worshipped water as the source of life, the element through which the soul journeyed after death. To them, the Nile was not only a river, but a bridge between worlds. Could the flooded chambers beneath the pyramids have been designed as part of that journey? Ritual passages where water itself became the guardian of what was hidden? Others believe these waters are not symbolic but practical, that the pyramids were built not only as monuments but as machines, harnessing the natural flow of underground water to create energy. It sounds impossible, yet some engineers have noted the peculiar design of the subterranean chamber beneath the Great Pyramid, with its sloping passages and unfinished floor. It resembles not a tomb, but a hydraulic system, a device meant to resonate with the Earth's own forces. If true, then the water beneath the pyramid was not an intrusion, but a key, a source of power now forgotten. And there is another possibility. Water is nature's great preserver. Scrolls sealed in jars, artifacts locked in stone, even bodies left in the right conditions can endure for thousands of years if the waters protect them. If chambers beneath the pyramids remain flooded, then what rests within them may still be intact. Ancient texts, untouched artifacts, relics of a forgotten age waiting in the dark. Perhaps the greatest library humanity has ever known lies beneath the surface, not lost to fire but preserved by water. Yet these places are forbidden. No excavations are allowed, no dives are sanctioned, no official exploration continues. When evidence of flooded chambers emerges, it is quickly dismissed or forgotten. Why? Perhaps because those who guard the story of history know what water may still be keeping safe, and they fear what would be revealed if those chambers were drained. To acknowledge them would be to admit that the pyramids are not tombs at all, but something far greater. Imagine descending into one of these dark passages, your torchlight reflecting off still water, the air heavy with silence. Beneath your feet lies a chamber no one has entered for thousands of years. Beneath that water may be scrolls, devices, or treasures from a time before history began. The thought alone is enough to make the silence oppressive, as though the pyramid itself is warning you not to continue. The pyramids are often called tombs, monuments to the kings of Egypt who sought eternity in stone. Yet for all their grandeur, for all their passages and chambers, one thing has always been missing: the bodies. No pharaoh's remains have ever been found inside the Great Pyramids, no treasures sealed away with the dead, no mummies resting in eternal slumber. The sarcophagus in the king's chamber stands empty, its lid gone, its purpose uncertain. If the pyramids were truly tombs, then where are the pharaohs they were built to honor? This absence has long haunted archaeology. The official story claims the tombs were robbed in antiquity, plundered by thieves who stripped them bare. Yet this explanation rings hollow. The pyramids were built to endure, with hidden chambers, sealed passageways, and walls of stone meant to deter intruders. And even when other tombs in the Valley of the Kings were plundered, fragments of bodies, traces of burial goods, always remained. In the pyramids there is nothing, only silence. Could it be that the pharaohs were never buried there at all? Some scholars suggest the pyramids were symbolic tombs, monuments to power rather than actual resting places. The kings may have been interred elsewhere, in hidden locations now lost to time. If so, why build monuments of such staggering size only to leave them empty? Unless their purpose was not burial, but something else entirely. Legends speak of pharaohs buried in secret chambers beneath the plateau, their bodies hidden away from grave robbers and invaders. Some say there are tombs that stretch below the Sphinx or beneath the sands to the west, vast halls where rulers rest in silence. Whispers claim that excavations have uncovered such places, only for their discoveries to vanish from record, suppressed to maintain the illusion that the pyramids themselves were tombs. Then there is the strange case of the Serapeum at Saqqara, where massive granite sarcophagi lie in dark chambers, each weighing over 70 tons. They were built with impossible precision, polished to perfection, yet most are empty, no mummies, no treasures, nothing but silence. Who were they for? What purpose did they serve? Some believe they were designed not for humans at all, but for something else, something the ancients sought to protect or to conceal. The absence of the pharaohs suggests a deeper truth. Perhaps their bodies were never meant to be found. Perhaps their burials were hidden deliberately because within them lay more than kingship. Perhaps the rulers of Egypt carried with them secrets too great to be unearthed. Secrets of origins, of gods, of powers, passed down from a time before history. To bury them in plain sight, inside pyramids anyone could enter, would have risked revelation. So they were hidden instead, sealed in places known only to priests, their locations erased from memory. Even Tutankhamun, the most famous discovery in the Valley of the Kings, was nearly lost. His tomb was small, almost accidental, as if he had been placed there in haste. If his resting place had not been overlooked, we might never have known his name. How many other kings lie beneath the sands, their tombs undiscovered, their secrets intact? The pyramids may not be tombs at all, but monuments to concealment. They draw the eye upward to their towering peaks, while the truth lies below, beneath the sand, in chambers we are not allowed to see. Until those hidden tombs are uncovered, the mystery of Egypt's greatest kings will remain. The buried pharaohs are not gone, they are only waiting in silence, sealed beneath stone, their secrets intact. And until we find them, the pyramids will remain empty, their purpose as enigmatic as the desert itself. Step inside the Great Pyramid and the air changes. The noise of the desert falls away. Your footsteps echo strangely, as though the very walls are listening. Sound behaves differently here. It lingers, it resonates, it vibrates in ways that feel both unnatural and deliberate. These are the acoustic mysteries of the pyramids. Secrets not carved in hieroglyphs, but woven into the very stones themselves. The king's chamber deep within the Great Pyramid is the most unsettling example. Built of massive granite blocks hauled from quarries hundreds of miles away, the chamber hums with energy. Clap your hands, and the sound rebounds in waves, building on itself, resonating until it feels as though the room itself is alive. Sing a single note and the walls seem to sing back, amplifying it into a haunting vibration that fills your chest and bones. This is not an accident of architecture, it is design. The chamber was built to resonate. Even the sarcophagus inside the chamber is tuned. Struck gently, it produces a deep bell-like tone. Engineers who have studied it note its perfect dimensions, its hollow quality, its ability to amplify vibration. Was it meant for a body, or was it meant for sound? Some researchers suggest that when the chamber was used in rituals, sound waves would have filled the room, vibrating through the granite, creating an atmosphere of transcendence, a machine not for death, but for transformation. The Grand Gallery, that steep ascending passage leading upward to the king's chamber, carries its own acoustic secrets. Its corbelled ceiling and precise measurements amplify sound in uncanny ways. Voices rise and fall unnaturally, as though the gallery itself is channeling energy upward. Some suggest it was designed to carry vibrations directly into the king's chamber, feeding it with sound and power. If so, then the pyramid was not just a monument of stone, it was an instrument. Around the world, ancient structures reveal similar secrets. The Mayan temples at Chichen Itza produce echoes that mimic the cry of the sacred Quetzal bird. Stone circles in Europe hum when the wind moves through them. Across continents, civilizations seem to understand the hidden language of sound, building monuments not only to be seen but to be heard. The pyramids of Egypt, however, are perhaps the most powerful expression of this forgotten science. What was the purpose of these acoustic effects? Were they spiritual, designed to create altered states of consciousness in priests and initiates? Were they practical, perhaps linked to forgotten technologies that used vibration as power? Or were they symbolic, harmonizing earth and sky through sound, connecting the human body to the cosmos itself? Some researchers even suggest the pyramids were vast resonators, capable of generating energy through the interaction of sound, stone, and earth. The granite used in the king's chamber contains quartz crystals, materials known to vibrate and produce energy when pressure is applied. Could the ancients have understood this principle, harnessing it in ways we no longer comprehend? If so, then the pyramids were never tombs. They were instruments of power, temples of sound, machines of resonance, and the secrets of their builders lie not in inscriptions, but in frequencies. To stand inside one of these chambers is to feel it. The silence is heavy, but when broken, it transforms into vibration, into energy that courses through the stone and into you. The walls hum with a voice older than time, older than memory, older than history itself, and you realize that the pyramids were not built only to endure the ages, they were built to sing. Hidden deep in the archives of museums, whispered about in journals, and sometimes glimpsed only for a moment before vanishing into silence, there are artifacts from Egypt that should have changed history forever. Objects unearthed in the shadow of the pyramids, discoveries that defy explanation, yet for reasons never fully told, they disappeared. These are the forbidden artifacts, fragments of truth too dangerous to remain in the light. One story tells of strange tools found in the Great Pyramid itself. Early explorers spoke of metallic objects, sharper and stronger than copper, discovered in cracks and crevices where workers once labored. Some claim these tools were made of alloys unknown to the ancient world, harder than iron centuries before the Iron Age began. They were logged in notes, mentioned in passing, then quietly erased. Today, no such tools remain in official collections. Were they lost, destroyed, or hidden away because they revealed knowledge the ancients were not supposed to possess? Another tale surrounds the Serapeum of Saqqara. Deep underground lie massive granite boxes, carved with such precision that their surfaces are flat within fractions of an inch. Some explorers claim that when the chambers were first opened, strange objects were found inside, shards of materials not native to Egypt, artifacts resembling mechanical parts. Yet the official story says every box was empty, stripped long ago. Why then do whispers persist of objects carted away in silence, never catalogued, never displayed? In the 1920s, a French archaeologist reported discovering small figures buried near the pyramids, shaped like birds but with features more like airplanes, wings, stabilizers, tail fins. At first dismissed as toys, they were later tested and shown to be aerodynamically functional. Models built from their design could glide with precision. Yet rather than embracing the possibility that ancient Egyptians had knowledge of flight, the objects were tucked away, labeled as simple curiosities. Even today they remain in museum drawers, unacknowledged for what they truly suggest. And then there are the artifacts that are said to have vanished entirely, scrolls pulled from hidden chambers, written in scripts that do not match any known Egyptian language, fragments of metal etched with markings that resemble circuitry, skeletal remains unearthed in secret tombs that did not fit human proportions. These discoveries, if they ever truly existed, have left no trace, but the rumours refuse to die, and the more often they are denied, the louder they seem to echo. Why would such artifacts be hidden? The answer is simple. Because they do not fit. They do not fit the tidy narrative of a civilization progressing slowly, step by step, from primitive to advanced. They suggest instead that Egypt inherited knowledge, that the pyramids were not merely tombs but monuments built with technologies long lost. To display these artifacts openly would force history to be rewritten. It would demand that we admit our ancestors were not ignorant, but custodians of truths we have forgotten. And so the forbidden artifacts remain in silence, locked in vaults, mislabeled in basements, erased from catalogues. But silence is not absence. Whispers continue. Notes from explorers resurface, photographs leak, and every so often one of these anomalies slips back into the light, just long enough to remind us that history is not complete. Imagine what might be revealed if every forbidden artifact were placed on display. If the drawers of museums were opened, the vaults unlocked, the basements cleared. Imagine the tools, the scrolls, the devices laid out before us, their secrets no longer hidden. Our view of history would collapse, and in its place something far older, far greater would emerge. When the first explorers crawled into the sealed tombs of Egypt, they carried more than torches and tools. They carried fear. For carved on the walls, whispered in legends and repeated by locals, was the same warning: disturb the dead and you will pay the price. The curse of the pharaohs. A shadow that has followed every great discovery, from the pyramids to the Valley of the Kings. But was it real, or was it a carefully planted legend designed to protect the greatest secrets of the ancients? The most famous tale begins in 1922 when Howard Carter uncovered the tomb of Tutankhamun. Within months of the discovery, members of the expedition began to die. Lord Carnarvon, Carter's patron, was struck by an infection and passed suddenly. Newspapers erupted with stories of a curse. More deaths followed: an Egyptologist, an American financier, even Carter's secretary. Each death was blamed on the wrath of the pharaoh, exacting revenge for the disturbance of his eternal rest. The story gripped the world. The curse became legend. Yet when examined closely, the truth grows murkier. Many of those who entered the tomb lived long lives, including Howard Carter himself. Some scientists suggest the deaths were caused not by a curse, but by mold spores sealed within the chambers, inhaled by those who broke the tomb's air. Others say the curse was nothing more than coincidence, magnified by superstition and the hunger of newspapers for sensational tales. But perhaps the real question is why such a curse was believed at all. Could it be that the ancients wanted their tombs protected not only from thieves, but from future generations who might stumble across something too dangerous to reveal? Inscribed warnings of divine punishment may have been more than superstition. They may have been deliberate deterrents crafted by priests who knew the tombs held not just treasures but forbidden knowledge. Some even suggest that the idea of curses was revived and amplified in modern times by those who wished to control exploration. If explorers feared opening sealed chambers, or if the public was made to believe that disturbing tombs was sacrilege, then discoveries could be slowed, controlled, or hidden. A curse is not only a threat, it is a tool, a story powerful enough to keep secrets sealed. And still, strange coincidences linger. Lights flicker in tombs where no flame should burn. Strange markings appear on sarcophagi, speaking of vengeance beyond death. Modern visitors who take artifacts, small stones, fragments of pottery, often report misfortunes until the relics are returned. Whether by chance or by something greater, the aura of the curse persists. The pyramids themselves carry no obvious inscriptions of curses, yet their silence feels just as heavy. Entering their dark passages, one senses the weight of ages pressing in. The air tastes different. The Walls seem to watch. It is not hard to imagine that disturbing what lies hidden within might carry consequences, not only physical but spiritual. Perhaps the curse of the pharaohs is not about mummies or treasure at all. Perhaps it is about the protection of knowledge, a warning carved into history. Do not dig too deep, do not seek what was not meant to be found. Whether born of superstition or strategy, the effect is the same. The pyramids and tombs remain shrouded in mystery, their secrets safe behind fear. Carved into the stone walls of pyramids older than history itself are words meant for eternity. They are not stories of kings or records of conquests, but incantations, prayers, and instructions, the pyramid texts. The oldest known religious writings on earth, they date back more than 4,000 years to the 5th and 6th dynasties, yet their meaning still slips through our fingers like desert sand carried away on the wind. For within these ancient words lies something more than ritual. They hint at knowledge greater than we dare admit. The pyramid texts were first discovered in the Pyramid of Unas, their hieroglyphs etched into the walls of the burial chamber. At first glance they appear to be funeral rites, guiding the pharaoh into the afterlife. But the deeper one reads, the stranger they become. They speak of the king ascending to the stars, of his soul travelling through the night sky, joining with Orion, with Sirius, with the gods themselves. They describe the dead not as lifeless, but as transformed, rising on beams of light, sailing across the heavens on cosmic boats. Why would ancient Egyptians imagine their king soaring to Orion? Why such precise alignment with stars, with constellations, with celestial cycles? Was this merely myth, or was it knowledge encoded in sacred verse? Some scholars argue that the pyramid texts were not metaphors but literal instructions, guides for a process we no longer understand. A process where sound, resonance, and energy were used to launch the spirit, or perhaps something more beyond the earth itself. The texts speak often of the pharaoh becoming a star, of his flesh turning into light. Some passages describe gates in the heavens opening, stairways of fire descending, pathways that sound less like poetry and more like technology cloaked in ritual. If the ancients inherited knowledge from a forgotten civilization, could the pyramid texts be fragments of that inheritance, preserved in sacred language so their meaning would never entirely vanish? Even their placement is telling. Unlike later tomb inscriptions, which tell stories of daily life and lineage, the pyramid texts are abstract, cryptic, cosmic. They seem less concerned with history than with eternity, less with the man than with the universe itself. They read like instructions written for a machine, a code etched in stone to ensure that the process could be repeated again and again. In later dynasties, the pyramid texts evolved into the coffin texts and the Book of the Dead, fragments of the same wisdom passed down and diluted through time. Yet the originals, the purest writings, remain locked within the oldest pyramids. Why there? Why so early in Egypt's history, as if the knowledge came fully formed at the dawn of the civilization? Did it arrive from elsewhere, carried by those who remembered a lost age? Some researchers believe the pyramid texts are humanity's first manual for transformation, not only of the spirit but of the body and mind. They may have encoded a science of consciousness, a way to move beyond the physical world into something greater. If so, then the pyramids themselves may not have been tombs, but instruments designed to enact this very process. The texts, then, were not decoration. They were instructions. To read the pyramid texts today is to feel the pull of something vast and ancient, something that slips through translation but resonates in the soul. They hum with echoes of a forgotten knowledge, one that saw no division between science and spirit, between heaven and earth. The question has haunted researchers for generations. Were the pyramids really just tombs, or were they something far more extraordinary? The traditional story insists they were built as grand burial monuments for the pharaohs, yet no mummy has ever been found inside the Great Pyramid. No treasures, no funerary markings, only stone, silence, and precision that defies explanation. For some, this absence is proof that the pyramids were never tombs at all. They were machines, vast power plants carved in stone, designed not for death but for energy. It sounds impossible, yet the evidence lingers in plain sight. The Great Pyramid is built with extraordinary precision, its sides aligned almost perfectly with the cardinal points of the earth. Its base is level to fractions of an inch, an engineering feat even today. The internal design is even stranger. The Grand Gallery, the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, and the subterranean chamber, all connected by narrow shafts and passages that seem less like a tomb and more like the inner workings of a device. The King's Chamber itself is constructed from massive granite blocks quarried far to the south, each containing quartz crystals. When granite is subjected to pressure or vibration, it produces energy, a principle we use in modern technology today. Could the ancients have known this? Was the chamber designed not for burial but to resonate, to generate power through sound and vibration? Some researchers suggest that the chamber once pulsed with frequencies, turning stone into a living conductor. Then there is the mystery of water. Beneath the pyramid, a subterranean chamber lies unfinished, carved into the bedrock. Some theorists believe it was once filled with water from the Nile, seeping naturally into the structure. Combined with the pyramid's geometry and materials, this water could have created an electrochemical reaction, a system not unlike the principles used in modern batteries. In this view, the pyramid was not a tomb, but a power station, drawing energy from the earth itself. Even the shafts that lead out of the chambers raise questions. Were they symbolic pathways for the soul, or vents designed for function? Some align precisely with stars, yes, but others seem to serve no spiritual purpose at all. Could they have been conduits, part of a system we no longer understand? Skeptics dismiss these ideas as fantasy, yet the more one studies the Great Pyramid, the harder it is to accept the tomb theory alone. Why build with such precision, such complexity, only to hold a single body? Why construct shafts, galleries, and chambers that serve no funerary function? Why is the largest and most sophisticated pyramid completely devoid of inscriptions, unlike any other tomb in Egypt? The idea of pyramids as power plants may sound modern, but it echoes ancient whispers. Legends speak of pyramids that once shone with light, of capstones that glowed like fire. Some traditions claim that energy from the pyramids could be felt for miles, sustaining crops, healing the sick, or even powering devices now lost to time. Were these exaggerations, or distant memories of a science erased from history? If the pyramids were power plants, then their purpose changes everything. They were not monuments to kings, but gifts to civilizations, machines designed to endure the ages, to draw energy from the earth and sky, to serve as beacons of knowledge from a forgotten past. Today they stand silent, their inner workings dormant, their secrets buried. But perhaps they are not broken. Perhaps they are simply asleep, waiting for someone to rediscover the knowledge that brought them to life. Stone does not speak, and yet within the pyramids it seems to. The walls hum with silence that feels alive, as though vibration itself lingers in the limestone. These structures are not only feats of engineering, but instruments, vast resonators carved from the earth. To walk their passages is to feel more than stone beneath your hands. It is to sense the hidden language of resonance, a language that may have been the true purpose of the pyramids. The Great Pyramid is built primarily of limestone, a material that absorbs and transmits vibration. At its heart, the King's Chamber is made of granite, rich in quartz crystal. Quartz is piezoelectric, meaning it produces energy when pressure or vibration is applied. This is not modern speculation, it is physics. And yet, thousands of years ago, the builders of the pyramids chose precisely these materials, quarried from hundreds of miles away, dragged across deserts, and placed in deliberate harmony. Why? To seal a tomb or to tune a machine. Researchers have tested the chambers and found that sound resonates within them at specific frequencies. A low hum in the King's Chamber reverberates through the granite, amplifying until the entire room vibrates like a living instrument. Even the sarcophagus within it responds, producing a deep, resonant tone when struck. Was this coincidence? Or was the pyramid designed to interact with sound, with voice, with chants and rituals that transformed its holes into resonant chambers? The Grand Gallery, with its steep angles and corbelled ceiling, also seems built for sound. Its narrow passage magnifies echoes, carrying them upward into the king's chamber. The effect is not accidental, it is architecture tuned to frequency. Imagine priests chanting in unison, their voices amplified and focused until the very stones began to sing. In that resonance, perhaps the pharaoh's spirit was not only guided but launched, projected into eternity on waves of vibration. Some go further, suggesting the pyramids harness the natural hum of the earth itself. Our planet vibrates at a fundamental frequency known as the Schumann resonance. Could the pyramids have been designed to capture and amplify this vibration, turning the Earth's heartbeat into energy? If so, then the resonance of stone was not spiritual alone, it was technological. Around the world, echoes of this knowledge appear, stone circles that hum in the wind, temples that amplify footsteps into thunder, caves where sound reverberates in ways that seem engineered. Ancient builders everywhere seem to understand what we have forgotten, that sound is not just heard but felt. That vibration shapes reality, and that stone, when cut and placed with intention, can become an instrument of power. Why would the ancients care so much about resonance? Perhaps because they saw it as the bridge between worlds. Sound could alter consciousness, opening the mind to visions, to gods, to eternity. Or perhaps because they discovered what modern science now whispers, that vibration is at the heart of all things, from atoms to galaxies. To control vibration is to touch the fabric of reality itself. The pyramids hum in silence, their stones wait, tuned like strings of a forgotten instrument. The resonance locked within them is more than a curiosity, it is a message, a reminder that sound, stone and spirit were once united in ways we no longer understand. To place your hand on the granite of the king's chamber is to feel it, faint but undeniable, the memory of vibration, the echo of a song that once shook the earth. Deep beneath the sands of Saqqara lies a tunnel carved into darkness. It stretches like a vein into the earth, lined with chambers that hold objects so strange, so impossibly crafted, that they have baffled researchers for generations. This place is the Serapeum, and within it lie the black granite boxes, massive sarcophagi cut and polished with precision so advanced that even today, with laser technology and diamond drills, we would struggle to replicate them. They are called tombs, but tombs for what? That remains a mystery no one has answered. The Serapeum was rediscovered in the 19th century, its passages choked with debris, its silence unbroken for centuries. Inside, archaeologists found corridors leading to huge stone boxes, each weighing up to 70 tons, carved from single blocks of granite. Their interiors are smooth to a mirror's finish, their angles perfectly square, their lids so massive they could only have been placed with technology we cannot explain. To stand before one is to feel the weight of impossibility pressing in. How were they made? And why? The official story claims they were burial places for sacred bulls, animals worshipped by the Egyptians as manifestations of the god Apis. Yet no complete remains have ever been found inside. Some boxes were empty, others contained only fragments, traces that could easily have been placed long after. Are we to believe that artisans dragged 70-ton blocks across miles of desert, carved them into perfection, polish them into glass, only to place a single bull within? The explanation rings hollow. The precision is too great. Engineers who have studied the boxes point out that their tolerances are within thousandths of an inch. Their surfaces, when measured, reveal machining quality far beyond what copper chisels could ever achieve. The marks of drills appear on their walls, drills that would have required force and speed unknown in the ancient world. Were these boxes created with technologies now lost, tools forgotten, or knowledge deliberately erased? Some suggest they were not tombs at all, but containers for something else, objects too dangerous or too sacred to be left in the open. The boxes are sealed with such perfection that once closed, they would have been nearly impossible to reopen. Were they vaults meant to imprison what they held or protect it? Others imagine they were machines, resonant chambers built to channel energy, just as the pyramids themselves may have done. Their polished interiors could amplify vibration, their sheer mass anchoring them into the earth like tuning forks carved in stone. And then there are the whispers of what was found before the official excavations. Stories of artifacts removed in secrecy, objects inside the boxes that were never catalogued, items carried away to museum basements or hidden archives, never seen again. If true, then the emptiness of the Serapeum today is not a mystery, but a cover-up. The question is not what the boxes once held, but why we are not allowed to know. Standing in the Serapeum is an unsettling experience. The air is heavy, the silence is absolute. The black granite boxes loom like giants in the dark, their surfaces cold and smooth to the touch. You feel as though you are in the presence of something not meant for human eyes, something that still carries power even after millennia. The Serapeum challenges everything we think we know about ancient Egypt. It whispers that the past held technologies and purposes we cannot grasp, that the neat story of tombs and rituals is only a veil. Beneath that veil the truth waits, silent, massive, unyielding, like the black boxes themselves. Within the Great Pyramid, narrow shafts cut upward from the chambers, rising through tons of solid stone. They are so small that a person could never crawl through them, so precise that their angles seem almost impossible to have been carved without advanced tools. For centuries they were dismissed as ventilation passages, simple airways to provide relief in the depths of the pyramid. But when explorers began to map their direction, something extraordinary emerged. These shafts do not point randomly into the sky, they align with the stars. From the king's chamber, one shaft points directly to Orion's belt, the celestial home of Osiris, the god of resurrection. Another points to Sirius, the star of Isis, the goddess of rebirth. From the queen's chamber, a shaft aligns with the star Thuban in Draco, which once marked the pole of the heavens. Another reaches toward the constellation of Orion as well. These alignments are too perfect to be coincidence. They suggest that the shafts were not for air but for eternity, pathways guiding the soul of the pharaoh into the cosmos. Imagine a ritual thousands of years ago. The king's body placed in the chamber, chants echoing through the grand gallery, the walls humming with resonance. As the soul was believed to rise, the shafts became its gateways, channels through which it could travel, piercing the stone and opening directly into the heavens. The pyramid was not a tomb, but a launch pad, a machine designed to bridge earth and sky, flesh and eternity. Yet there are deeper mysteries still. In the 1990s, robotic probes were sent into the shafts of the Queen's chamber. Crawling through the narrow passages, cameras revealed what lay at the end. Small limestone doors sealed with copper fittings. Not air vents, but barriers. Doors leading to something beyond. Behind one, another space was found, and behind that, still more silence. Why would such effort be made to carve narrow shafts, only to seal them with tiny doors deep within the stone? The shafts seem symbolic, yes, but they also feel functional, as if designed with a purpose more complex than spiritual metaphor. Were they channels for energy, part of a greater mechanism within the pyramid? Could they have focused vibration, light, or even something we no longer understand? If the pyramids were machines as well as monuments, the shafts may have been integral to their operation, conduits of power hidden in plain sight. What unsettles most is that we are not allowed to know. Further exploration of the shafts has been limited, halted without clear explanation. The last probes revealed hints of new spaces, then the work was stopped. Officially, there was no need to continue. Unofficially, some believed discoveries were made, discoveries never shared with the public. The shafts are like riddles in stone, too narrow to walk, too precise to ignore, too carefully aligned to dismiss. They are messages written with geometry, pointing not only to the stars but to a knowledge we still cannot grasp. Were they spiritual passages, technological conduits, or both at once? Stand inside the pyramid and look upward at the tiny openings above. They are small, unassuming. Yet through them lies the sky, the constellations burning with the same light they carried thousands of years ago. To the ancients they were roads for the soul. To us they are reminders that the builders of the pyramids understood both earth and heaven in ways we have only begun to rediscover. Deep beneath the base of the Great Pyramid, cut directly into the living bedrock, lies a chamber unlike any other. It is rough, unfinished, and silent, carved far below the level of the desert floor. Known simply as the subterranean chamber, it is one of the most enigmatic spaces in all of Giza. While the king's chamber and the queen's chamber were built with care and precision, and their walls polished and measured, this chamber feels raw, like a scar in the earth, a place left incomplete or deliberately left primitive. And yet, many believe it may be the most important room of all. To reach it, one must follow the descending passage from the pyramid's entrance, a long corridor that dives steeply into darkness. The further you go, the air grows heavier, the silence deeper, until finally you reach a cavernous space, carved directly into stone. The floor is uneven, filled with pits and niches whose purpose no one can explain. The walls bear no inscriptions, no decoration, no sign of ritual. It is as though whoever carved it abandoned their work, or left it deliberately unmarked. Why would such a chamber exist? Some Egyptologists argue it was an early attempt at a burial chamber, abandoned when plans changed and the king's chamber was built above. But this explanation feels incomplete. Why carve so deeply into bedrock only to abandon the effort? Why create shafts and pits whose functions are unknown? Why leave behind a space so strange, so haunting, yet still integrated into the very heart of the pyramid? Some theorists suggest the subterranean chamber was never meant for the dead at all. Instead, it was part of a larger system, an energy source perhaps, where water from the Nile once flowed through channels, filling the chamber to create pressure and resonance. If the pyramid was a machine, as some claim, then this room may have been its engine, a place where earth, water, and vibration converged. Others believe the chamber was symbolic, not practical. A womb of stone meant to represent the underworld, the place where the soul began its journey before rising through the pyramid's passages to the stars. The pits in the floor may have been altars or receptacles for offerings. The rough walls may have been intentional, a reminder that creation begins in chaos before emerging into order. If so, then the subterranean chamber was not unfinished, it was primordial, a mirror of the underworld itself. There are even whispers of darker theories. Some suggest the chamber was used for initiations or even sacrifices, rites performed in the depth of the earth where no light reached. The silence of the room, the weight of stone pressing down from above could have created altered states of consciousness, visions mistaken for journeys into the afterlife. To lie within that chamber, surrounded by silence and darkness, would be to feel the weight of eternity pressing in. Perhaps this was the point, to bring the initiate face to face with death, only to emerge reborn into the light of the upper chambers. And yet, despite all the theories, the truth remains hidden. The chamber sits in darkness, unexplored in detail, its mysteries left unanswered. Few venture into it today, and fewer still linger. Its silence is too heavy, its air too still, its presence too unsettling. Stand in the subterranean chamber and you feel it, that you are standing not in a tomb but in a question carved in stone, left for future generations to unravel. Why does this room exist? Why is it here, beneath the pyramid, empty and silent, as though it is waiting? At the very heart of the Great Pyramid lies a chamber unlike any other. It is not the largest, nor the most elaborate, but it is the most unsettling. The King's Chamber, a room carved from massive blocks of red granite, transported from quarries hundreds of miles to the south, fitted together with precision so exact that the seams are nearly invisible. To stand inside it is to feel the weight of more than one stone. It is to feel purpose, deliberate, powerful, and still unsolved after thousands of years. The chamber measures with mathematical perfection. Its proportions seem to reflect sacred geometry, echoing ratios tied to the golden mean and the dimensions of the earth itself. Its walls are polished smooth, the granite so dense and heavy that even today, modern cranes would struggle to lift the blocks into place. Why choose such difficult material? Why go to such lengths, unless this chamber was meant to endure not just centuries, but eternity? At its center lies a single object, the sarcophagus. It is cut from a single piece of granite, hollowed with incredible precision. Unlike coffins found elsewhere in Egypt, it carries no inscriptions, no hieroglyphs, no ornamentation. It is silent, undecorated, functional. Some believe it was meant for a king's body, yet no remains were ever found. Others suggest it was never a coffin at all, but something stranger. Its hollow interior resonates when struck, producing a low, vibrating hum. Was it built to hold a body or to amplify sound? Above the king's chamber lie 5 so-called relieving chambers, stacked one atop the other, filled with enormous granite beams. Officially, their purpose was to distribute weight, preventing the ceiling from collapsing under the massive stone above. But their design is far too elaborate for such a simple function. Some beams weigh up to 70 tons, cut and placed with deliberate care, and curiously, marks inside suggest the builders were experimenting with resonance, as though tuning the very chamber like a musical instrument. The chamber's acoustics are unmistakable. When sound is made within it, the entire room seems to vibrate, amplifying and sustaining the frequency. The sarcophagus, when struck, produces tones that echo through the walls. Some researchers suggest this was intentional, that the king's chamber was designed not as a resting place for the dead, but as a chamber of transformation, a resonant cavity where sound, vibration, and perhaps consciousness itself were elevated to higher states. The alignments deepen the mystery. Shafts leading out of the chamber point directly to stars sacred to the Egyptians, Orion, Sirius, constellations tied to their beliefs in the afterlife. Was the king's chamber a gateway, a cosmic launch pad designed to connect the pharaoh with eternity? Or was it a machine built with principles of sound and energy we no longer understand? Even modern experiments in the chamber have left visitors unsettled. Some report sensations of dizziness, visions, or altered states of mind when exposed to sustained tones. Others speak of overwhelming silence, as if the chamber itself listens. The combination of geometry, resonance, and material seems designed to produce an experience beyond explanation. If the king's chamber was truly the heart of the pyramid, then its purpose remains the greatest mystery of all. It is too precise to be meaningless, too silent to be only symbolic. It is as if the builders left us a riddle, carved not in words, but in stone itself. A riddle we can stand inside, but cannot yet solve. Deeper within the Great Pyramid, smaller and less celebrated than the king's chamber above, lies a room that carries just as much mystery. It is called the Queen's Chamber, though no queen was ever buried there, no body ever discovered, no inscriptions carved to explain its purpose. It sits quietly at the pyramid's heart, a place neither wholly understood nor easily dismissed. And like so many features of this monument, its silence speaks louder than any explanation given. The Queen's Chamber is modest compared to the grandeur of the King's Chamber. Its walls are made of limestone rather than granite, its size smaller, its ceiling peaked in a corbelled design that gives the impression of rising upward. At the centre of the eastern wall is a curious niche, an alcove that seems to have been intended for something important, though what that something was has long been forgotten. Some say it was meant for a statue of the pharaoh or a sacred object used in ritual. Others believe it may have been part of a larger mechanism, a cavity designed for function rather than symbolism. Like the king's chamber, the queen's chamber also holds shafts that climb upward through the pyramid. For years they were dismissed as ventilation ducts until their alignments were studied. These narrow passages point towards specific stars, most notably Sirius, the star of Isis, goddess of rebirth, and Orion, the celestial home of Osiris. The symbolism is undeniable. The chamber seems to have been designed not for air but for the soul, to connect this space with the heavens, guiding something upward through the stone and into eternity. Yet the mystery only deepened in the 1990s, when robotic probes were sent into these shafts. At the end of one, deep within the pyramid, explorers found a small limestone door fitted with copper handles. Beyond it, another cavity. Beyond that, still more silence. Why would such effort be made to carve narrow shafts only to seal them with doors deep in the heart of the structure? What lies beyond those sealed passages, and why have we been forbidden to find out? The chamber itself has unusual properties. Acoustic tests show that it resonates at specific frequencies, much like the king's chamber. Sound builds and vibrates, as though the room was designed not for rest but for energy. Some suggest the queen's chamber may have functioned as part of a larger system, a resonant cavity that worked in harmony with the king's chamber above and the subterranean chamber below. Together they may have formed a machine of stone, tuned to frequencies we no longer understand. Others argue that the queen's chamber was symbolic, and the spiritual counterpart to the king's chamber. If the king was to ascend to the stars, the queen, his counterpart in ritual, was to join him in a parallel journey. The chamber's alignment with Isis strengthens this interpretation, yet no remains were found, no funerary goods, no evidence of burial. It remains as silent as the rest of the pyramid's mysteries. The most intriguing theory suggests the chamber was meant not for the dead at all, but for the living. Initiates may have entered the queen's chamber as part of sacred rituals, experiencing the resonance of sound and vibration that altered consciousness. The shafts may have symbolized the path of the soul, the niche an altar for transformation. If true, the chamber was not a resting place, but a place of awakening. To stand inside it today is to feel its stillness, its quiet intensity. It lacks the overwhelming weight of the king's chamber, but it hums with subtle mystery. The niche, the shafts, the sealed doors, they all suggest a purpose we have not yet deciphered. For centuries, we have been told the pyramids were tombs built to house the bodies of Egypt's mighty pharaohs, yet inside the Great Pyramid, no mummy has ever been found, no funerary treasures, no carved inscriptions declaring the king's triumphs, no walls painted with journeys into the afterlife, only bare stone, silent corridors, empty chambers, the greatest monument ever built, and not a single royal burial within it. This absence is not a detail, it is the heart of the mystery. The sarcophagus in the king's chamber stands hollow. Its lid, if it ever existed, is gone. Archaeologists explain this away by saying the pyramid was looted long ago, its treasures stolen, its king's body destroyed. But the story falters under closer inspection. The entrance passage was sealed with massive stones. The king's chamber was hidden behind granite plugs. To breach them would have taken monumental effort. Thieves could not have done it quickly or quietly, and even if they had, why would they strip away every last trace, leaving nothing, not a fragment of bone, not a single shard of gold, not even the broken remnants of ritual offerings? Other pyramids tell the same story. The pyramid of Khafre, the second great pyramid, also stood empty when opened. The smaller pyramids nearby were the same, even the enigmatic black granite boxes of the Serapeum, carved with impossible precision, were all empty when discovered. Were they truly tombs, or is that explanation a veil covering a truth too strange to accept? One possibility is that the pyramids were never tombs at all. Their design lacks the features found in known Egyptian burial sites. Tombs in the Valley of the Kings are covered with inscriptions, murals, and texts guiding the soul. The pyramids are bare. Tombs contain multiple chambers filled with offerings and treasures. The pyramids hold only silence and geometry. To call them tombs is to ignore the evidence. They are something else entirely. Another possibility is that the burials were hidden deliberately, placed not within the pyramids but somewhere else, in secret chambers beneath the plateau or within labyrinths never revealed. Ancient priests may have gone to extraordinary lengths to ensure the pharaoh's remains would never be found, guarding secrets of lineage, ritual, or even knowledge carried with them. The pyramids, then, would have been monuments of power, symbols to awe the living, while the true burials remained hidden from all eyes. There is also the unsettling thought that perhaps the pharaohs themselves were not meant to be preserved as bodies at all. The pyramid texts speak of kings ascending to the stars, of flesh transforming into light, of souls sailing to Orion. If the pyramids were not tombs but instruments of transformation, then the absence of mummies may not be an accident. It may be the point. The kings were never left behind because their journey was not of flesh but of spirit. Still, the silence of the chambers presses in. Empty stone boxes, sealed shafts, hidden voids. Each suggests that something was once here and is now gone, or was never meant to be here at all. If the pyramids were looted, it must have been in ancient times long before history remembers. If they were never tombs, then everything we have been taught is wrong. Stand inside the Great Pyramid and you feel it. The emptiness is not absence, it is design. It is as though the builders wanted us to search, to question, to feel the weight of what is missing. The pyramids are not simply empty, they are deliberately empty, monuments built not to house the dead, but to keep the living guessing. For generations the story has been repeated. The pyramids were built by armies of slaves, driven by whips beneath the desert sun, forced to drag stones of unimaginable weight until their bodies broke. It is an image immortalized in films, in books, in our collective imagination. Yet when we look closer, when we study the evidence left in the sands of Giza, that story begins to crumble. The truth of who built the pyramids and how remains far stranger and perhaps far more unsettling than the tale we have been told. Archaeologists point to the discovery of workers' villages near the pyramids. Remains of bread ovens, beer jars, and modest houses suggest that tens of thousands of labourers live near the construction site. But these were not slaves in chains. Their bones show signs of medical care, healed injuries, even proper diets rich with protein. These were organised workers, craftsmen, and labourers who, by all appearances, were respected. They built the pyramids not as punishment, but as part of something greater. Yet even this explanation leaves more questions than answers. Could ordinary workers, even in great numbers, truly have moved blocks weighing dozens of tons across desert terrain? Could they have cut granite with copper chisels, carving it with tolerances so precise that even modern tools would struggle to match them? The official story insists it was possible, but the scale defies belief. To move just one block would require immense effort. The Great Pyramid contains over 2 million. Even if tens of thousands worked year after year, the feat seems beyond the limits of human labour. Legends tell another story. Some ancient accounts speak of the builders as initiates, chosen men trained in secret knowledge. Others whisper that the pyramids were raised not with brute strength, but with lost technologies, machines that lifted stone, tools that softened rock, techniques we cannot reproduce today. In Arab folklore, the pharaoh Surid is said to have used magic scrolls to command the stones to rise into place. Myth perhaps, but myth often grows from a kernel of truth. If the builders were not slaves, then who were they? Some believe they were priests, scientists, or heirs of a forgotten civilization preserving knowledge from an earlier age. The precision of the work suggests minds trained in mathematics, astronomy, and engineering. These were not mere labourers, they were custodians of something vast. Perhaps the pyramids were not simply built, but rebuilt, restored by those who remembered fragments of a much older design. The question of how they moved the stones has never been fully answered. Some experiments show that wetting the sand before dragging sledges reduces friction, making transport easier. Ingenious, yes, but does it explain blocks weighing over 70 tons hauled across miles of desert? Does it explain the placement of granite beams high above the king's chamber, each lifted hundreds of feet into the air? Even with ramps, even with ingenuity, the logistics border on the impossible. unless there was another method, one we no longer know. The story of slaves was convenient. It simplified the pyramids, turning them into monuments of tyranny rather than mysteries of knowledge. But the truth is more complex. The builders were not slaves, they were something else, organized, skilled, perhaps even guided by principles now lost. Stand at the base of the Great Pyramid and look upward. Imagine millions of blocks rising in perfect alignment, built not with machines we know, but with methods forgotten. Imagine the builders, whoever they were, carrying knowledge that has since slipped into silence. Their secret is not only how they built the pyramids, but why. The pyramids are not monuments of oppression, they are monuments of intention. And the builders, whoever they truly were, carried a knowledge that still eludes us. A knowledge buried not only in stone, but in the silence of history itself. When we look at the pyramids today, we see marvels of stone, monuments that have survived thousands of years. Yet what we do not see, what has been erased, stripped, or quietly removed, may be just as important as what remains. The pyramids are not only about what was built, they are also about what was taken away. The destruction of evidence is one of history's most unsettling silences, a gap that forces us to ask what was removed and why. Originally, the Great Pyramid was not the rough, weathered structure we see today. It was once sheathed in smooth casing stones of gleaming white limestone, polished to perfection so that the monument shone like a star against the desert sun. Some accounts say it reflected light so brightly that it could be seen for miles, perhaps even from space. But those stones are gone, torn away in the Middle Ages, repurposed to build mosques and palaces in Cairo. A convenient explanation, but was every last casing stone truly taken for construction? Or were some removed earlier, dismantled deliberately to conceal something hidden beneath? Inscriptions too are curiously absent. Unlike other Egyptian tombs, the Great Pyramid carries no hieroglyphs, no painted scenes, no words to guide the soul. Officially, this is explained as an early stage of pyramid construction, before decoration became common. Yet fragments of hieroglyphs were reported by early explorers in hidden passages, marks that were quickly dismissed, destroyed, or lost to history. Some suggest these markings pointed to something the guardians of history did not want us to know, a truth stripped away before it could spread. Artifacts have also vanished. Early travellers wrote of strange objects found in the pyramids, tools made of metal harder than copper, small statues with unfamiliar features, even fragments of papyrus sealed in niches. Many of these finds were quietly removed to museums, only to disappear into private collections or forgotten archives. The official records rarely mention them. It is as though the pyramid itself was emptied not by ancient thieves, but by modern hands, hands that took what did not fit the accepted story and locked it away. The destruction of evidence is not limited to the pyramids themselves. Throughout Egypt, monuments bear the scars of erasure. Names of earlier pharaohs have been chiseled out and replaced. Statues have had their faces struck away. Inscriptions end abruptly, as if rewritten to hide inconvenient truths. Even the Sphinx shows signs of deliberate defacement. What was so dangerous that entire chapters of stone had to be rewritten or erased entirely? Some whisper of excavations carried out in secret beneath the sands, discoveries of chambers and tunnels that were quickly sealed again, their contents removed before word could spread, photographs that vanish, reports that are never published. If true, then the pyramids may still be yielding their secrets, but only to those who wish to control the narrative, not share it. Why destroy or conceal this evidence? Perhaps to preserve the illusion of certainty, the neat timeline of history that places the pyramids firmly within the story we are allowed to believe. To admit otherwise would be to open the door to something much older, much greater, and much more unsettling. Knowledge that the pyramids were not merely tombs, but machines, not built by Egyptians alone, but inherited from a forgotten age. The pyramids are riddles, and part of that riddle lies in what has been taken from them. Every missing stone, every erased name, every vanished artifact is a clue in itself, a silence louder than words. For in those absences we sense the truth. That history has been edited, that the pyramids still guard secrets we were never meant to know. In ancient Egypt, there were those who held power not through armies or crowns, but through knowledge. They were the priests, the keepers of mysteries, the guardians of rituals, the custodians of history that was never written for the common eye. While pharaohs ruled the land in splendor, it was often the priests who preserved the deeper truths. Truths whispered in temples, encoded in hieroglyphs, hidden within the very stones of the pyramids. Truths that may never have been meant for us to see. The Egyptian priesthood was vast and complex, divided into orders that served the gods, the temples, and the dead. At the top were the high priests, men who acted as intermediaries between humanity and the divine, but their duties were more than religious. They were astronomers, mathematicians, healers, and scribes. They read the stars, tracked the floods of the Nile, and guarded knowledge passed down from a time Egypt itself called the first time, the Zeptepi, when the gods walked among men. What did these priests truly know? The evidence suggests they were far more than keepers of ritual. They understood celestial cycles with astonishing precision, predicting eclipses and aligning temples with solstices. They encoded this knowledge in myths, turning cosmic truths into stories of Osiris, Isis, and Horus. They preserved geometry and mathematics so advanced that it still resonates in the proportions of the pyramids. And perhaps most unsettling, they may have guarded the memory of civilizations older than Egypt, whose wisdom they inherited and swore to protect. The priests were not only guardians of knowledge, they were gatekeepers. Access to the innermost teachings was restricted, reserved for initiates who proved themselves worthy. Ordinary Egyptians never heard the deeper truths. Even pharaohs, powerful as they were, relied on priests to guide them through the mysteries of death and resurrection. In this way, the priests held power that rivaled kings. To them, the pyramids may not have been tombs at all, but instruments of initiation, machines of transformation used in rites known only to the chosen few. Legends tell us that within the temples of Egypt there were hidden libraries, collections of scrolls and records no outsider ever saw. The Library of Alexandria, famous though it became, may have been only a fragment of this priestly knowledge. The true archives, some believe, were hidden away, perhaps beneath the Sphinx, perhaps in labyrinths under the sands, perhaps even within the pyramids themselves. These were not libraries for the masses, but vaults of forbidden history, guarded with curses, rituals, and secrecy. Why such caution? Perhaps because the knowledge was dangerous. The pyramid texts hint at rituals of transformation, at powers drawn from the stars. The alignments of temples suggest an understanding of the universe that rivals our own. If the priests truly preserved the legacy of an earlier, greater civilization, then they would have known how fragile such wisdom could be. Better to guard it in silence than let it be misused or forgotten entirely. Even as Egypt fell to foreign powers, the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, the priests remained. They adapted, disguising their knowledge in new forms, hiding their wisdom within symbols, myths, and rituals that would outlast empire. Some say fragments of their teachings travelled across the world, influencing mystery schools in Greece, secret sects in Rome, even the alchemists of the Middle Ages. If so, then the voice of Egypt's priests still echoes, scattered across time like seeds waiting to grow again. To imagine them in the shadow of the pyramids chanting beneath the stars is to feel the gravity of their role. They were more than servants of gods, they were guardians of truths too vast for history, truth sealed in stone and silence. The pyramids themselves may be their greatest work, not monuments to kings, but monuments to knowledge. Knowledge hidden in plain sight, waiting for those who dare to see. The priest's knowledge was not lost, it was guarded, and perhaps it still is. For centuries, the Vatican has stood as the keeper of secrets, guarding vast archives hidden deep within its walls. Shelves that stretch for miles hold documents, maps, relics, and histories that the public will never see. Among them, it is whispered, lie records of Egypt, accounts of the pyramids, the Sphinx, and the mysteries of the ancient world. If the pyramids conceal knowledge that could rewrite history, then the Vatican may already know, and their silence may be the loudest voice of all. The Vatican archives are among the most restricted collections on earth. Scholars are permitted glimpses, but only of select documents, and only under heavy supervision. The majority of the material remains locked away, guarded from eyes that might uncover inconvenient truths. What could be so dangerous that it must be sealed for centuries? Some believe the answers lie in the very origins of civilization, origins tied not to the biblical narrative but to something far older, something Egypt preserved in stone. The Catholic Church has long maintained a careful relationship with Egypt. Early Christian texts were discovered in the sands, including Gospels that contradicted the official story. Some were suppressed, branded heretical, while others quietly disappeared. What if among these scrolls there were accounts that tied Christ not only to Judea, but to the ancient mysteries of Egypt? What if the rituals of resurrection, ascension, and eternal life, central to Christianity, were known first by the priests of the Nile? Travelers of past centuries reported strange findings around Giza, hidden chambers, inscriptions, even artifacts that were swiftly removed, sometimes into European collections, sometimes into the hands of the church itself. Whispers say papyri taken from secret chambers beneath the sands were carried to Rome, never to be seen again. If true, then the Vatican may hold not only the lost writings of Christianity, but the missing chapters of Egypt's own story. Why would the church hide such knowledge? The answer is simple: power. If humanity discovered that the pyramids were not tombs but machines, that the pharaohs practiced sciences of the soul far older than Christianity, that the origins of faith itself lay in the temples of Egypt, then the authority of the church would tremble. Better to seal those truths in silence than allow them to shatter centuries of doctrine. Even the legends of the Hall of Records beneath the Sphinx connect to this suspicion. Some claim the Vatican has long known of its existence, that agents and scholars once explored Egypt not as pilgrims, but as seekers of forbidden wisdom. If the Hall of Records holds the story of Atlantis, of civilizations erased by flood, of knowledge that predates the Bible, then its discovery would change everything. Perhaps that is why the chamber remains sealed, why exploration is halted, why silence reigns. And still, symbols of Egypt linger within the church itself. Obelisks from the Nile stand in Rome, brought there as trophies but also as reminders. Egyptian motifs appear in Christian art, in architecture, in ritual. The line between the two traditions is thinner than most dare to admit. Did the church adopt fragments of Egyptian wisdom while burying the rest? Did it preserve just enough to cloak the origins of its own power, while ensuring the deeper truths remained hidden? The Vatican's silence is a shadow over history. It is not the silence of ignorance, but of choice. The choice to guard, to conceal, to control what humanity remembers of its past. To stand in St. Peter's Basilica and gaze upon its grandeur is to feel the same awe as at Giza. Both are monuments of stone, of ritual, of eternity. But where Egypt left its truths in the open, carved in pyramids and temples, the Vatican has locked them away in darkness. Perhaps one day the archives will open, perhaps one day the sealed chambers will be revealed. Until then the silence remains, a silence heavy enough to rival even the pyramids themselves. The walls of the Great Pyramid stand bare. No carved hieroglyphs, no painted scenes of daily life, no inscriptions of triumphs or prayers to the gods. Unlike the richly decorated tombs in the Valley of the Kings, which overflow with images and texts guiding the dead into eternity, the Great Pyramid is silent. It speaks no names, it tells no stories. It stands as the largest and most precise monument of the ancient world, yet it carries no written claim of ownership. This absence is not a mistake, it is a mystery. Egyptians were obsessed with the written word. They believed that names carved in stone gave immortality, that inscriptions preserved the soul for eternity. Even humble tombs contain hieroglyphs, prayers, and symbols. And yet the greatest pyramid of all, the so-called Tomb of Khufu, has none. The only reference to Khufu come from faint markings discovered in hidden relieving chambers above the king's chamber, red quarry marks said to have been left by work crews, but even these are controversial. Some argue they were forged in the 19th century by explorers eager to prove the pyramid's pharaonic origins. If so, then the pyramid itself remains anonymous, built with divine precision but signed by no hand. Why would the builders leave it blank? Perhaps because the pyramid was never meant to be a tomb. A tomb proclaims itself. It tells the world whose body lies within, what gods protect it, what rituals guide it. The Great Pyramid does none of this. Instead, it hides its purpose in geometry, in alignment, in silence. Its language is mathematics, not hieroglyphs. Its message is written in shadow and light, not ink and paint. Some suggest the absence of inscriptions was deliberate, an attempt to protect the pyramid from desecration. By leaving it anonymous, the builders may have hoped to preserve its sanctity. Yet even this does not explain the total silence. If it was meant as a burial place, why not inscribe even a single prayer to the gods? Why not a single symbol of protection? The emptiness feels less like omission and more like intention. Others believe the pyramid predates Khufu entirely, that he claimed it as his own, carving his name into stone after the fact while the monument itself was already ancient. If this is true, then the lack of inscriptions makes sense. The pyramid was not his. It belonged to an earlier age, perhaps an earlier civilization, and those who built it had no need of words. Their knowledge was carved not in language, but in architecture, in alignments with the stars, in the perfection of stone itself. There is also the unsettling possibility that the silence was designed to conceal. Inscriptions reveal. They fix meaning into stone. But what if the builders wished the pyramid to remain a riddle? A puzzle meant to outlast ages, a monument whose true purpose could only be guessed at. In that case, the absence of words is the message itself. A challenge to the future. Do not accept stories told by others. Seek for yourself. Listen to the silence. To walk the inner passages of the Great Pyramid is to feel that silence pressing in. Smooth walls unadorned, cold to the touch. No gods to greet you, no prayers to comfort you. Only the geometry of stone and the echo of your own breath. It is as though the builders were saying, words can be erased, but numbers endure. Stories can be forgotten, but silence cannot be silenced. The missing inscriptions are not a gap in history. They are a deliberate void, a reminder that the pyramid was not built for one man's glory, but for something greater, something that did not need a name, because it was meant to outlast them all. The Giza Plateau is not just a desert of stone. It is a stage where time itself performs in silence, where 3 pyramids and a weathered sphinx stand against the horizon as if carved into eternity. They have outlasted kingdoms, empires, and even memory, and still, they remain. To walk among them today is to feel the weight of not just history, but legacy. The sense that these monuments are not relics of a vanished age, but voices still whispering across time. The pyramids speak first through their endurance. Built thousands of years ago, they have survived earthquakes, floods, invasions, and looting. While entire cities have crumbled into dust, while empires have risen and collapsed, these stone giants remain. Their survival is itself a message. They were meant to last. Their builders did not think in centuries. They thought in millennia. And in doing so, they left us a reminder of what permanence truly means in a world where even mountains erode. They also speak through their precision. The Great Pyramid is aligned to true north with an accuracy that rivals modern instruments. Its base is nearly perfect, its angles deliberate, its proportions tied to mathematical constants that reflect the very order of the cosmos. Was this merely architectural brilliance, or was it a declaration carved in stone that the builders understood harmony between earth and sky, man and universe? When we stand at Giza, we are reminded that human beings once saw themselves not as separate from the cosmos, but as part of its eternal rhythm. And then there is the silence. No hieroglyphs on the walls, no names carved in glory, no instructions left for us to follow, just stone and shadow, geometry and emptiness. That silence is not emptiness at all. It is invitation. An invitation to wonder, to question, to seek. The pyramids whisper that the greatest truths are not handed down but discovered, that their meaning lies not in what is said but in what is withheld. For some, the legacy of Giza is proof of human ingenuity. For others, it is evidence of forgotten civilizations, lost technologies, even divine intervention. But for all, it is a mirror. We project our fears and our hopes onto these monuments. They show us not only what the past may have been, but what the future could still become. Their stones hum with questions. Who are we? Where do we come from? What knowledge have we lost? And can we ever reclaim it? Even in the modern world, with satellites mapping the skies and machines probing the earth, the pyramids remain beyond us. Scans reveal hidden voids, shafts sealed with doors, anomalies that no one is permitted to explore. Their secrets are still protected, as if the builders intended that some truths remain waiting for the right time. Perhaps that time has not yet come. Perhaps their true legacy will not be revealed until we are ready to understand it. Yet the whisper of Giza is constant. It tells us that our story is incomplete, that the history written in our books is only one version, and that beneath it lies another, deeper one, carved not in words but in stone. The pyramids remind us that knowledge can be lost, but also preserved, that civilizations can fall, but their voices can still echo, that even silence can speak, if we are willing to listen. The legacy of Giza is not only in what we see, but in what we feel when we stand before it. Awe, mystery, humility. A recognition that humanity is part of something vast and ancient, something that stretches beyond the limits of time. The pyramids are not ruins, they are living questions, and they whisper still. Beneath the sands, beneath the stone, beneath the silence of centuries, the pyramids still guard their secrets. Chambers remain unopened, shafts remain sealed, cavities hidden deep within the limestone still hum with possibilities we are not permitted to touch. The Sphinx looks on, its eyes eroded but still watchful, as if it knows what lies below. And yet, despite centuries of study, exploration and speculation, we remain on the outside, peering into mysteries that refuse to surrender. The truth is that we may never fully uncover what the pyramids were meant to be. Were they tombs or temples or machines? Were they monuments to kings or gifts from gods or legacies of a civilization erased from time? Every answer brings more questions. Every discovery deepens the riddle. The more we learn, the more we realize how little we truly know. That is their power. That is their purpose. To remind us that the past is not finished, that history is not settled, that there are truths still buried, waiting in the dark. Perhaps those secrets will one day be revealed. Perhaps the sealed doors will finally open. The hidden voids will be explored. The waters will drain from flooded chambers, and the lost libraries will see light again. Or perhaps they will remain buried forever, whispers swallowed by sand, lessons left for a future humanity more prepared to understand them. The pyramids are patient. They will wait. But what they already give us is just as powerful. They give us wonder. They give us humility. They give us the reminder that our story is far older, far stranger, and far more mysterious than the narrow version we are told. To stand before them is to stand before eternity itself, carved into stone. They remind us that we too are part of something vast, something cosmic, something eternal. And so, as this journey ends, the pyramids still whisper. They whisper of forgotten civilizations, of gods who may have walked among us, of stars that guided souls into the heavens, of truths that cannot be silenced. They remind us that silence is not absence. It is invitation, an invitation to wonder, to question, to seek. If you felt the weight of that mystery, If you found yourself asking questions the history books cannot answer, then this story is only the beginning. Because there are more mysteries, more forgotten truths, more secrets buried in the dark, and together we will uncover them. So before you leave, take a moment. Let the pyramids whisper to you, and if their silence stirred something inside you, subscribe to this channel. Share these stories with others who feel the same pull. Leave a comment. Let us know what you believe still lies hidden beneath the sands. And don't forget to like this video, because every gesture, every voice helps keep these mysteries alive. The pyramids will endure, the sands will shift, the stars will shine as they always have. But it is our curiosity, our wonder, our willingness to question that keeps the past alive. And as long as we keep listening, the secrets of history will never be lost. This story may end here, but the journey is only just beginning.